What's up, familia? Living and creating from the flow state. That's the topic of this video. It's going to be a live interview with my boy, the Flow Lion, Zulu himself. Zulu Flow Lion, tuning in from Australia. And he is a dear brother. I'm going to invite him on here when he gets in here. A dear brother in flow. And he runs a brand called the FlowZone, which is all about engendering flow states, creating community through flow states. And what really the dedication of the flow state is just living from a state of non-resistance, creativity, divine flow, tuning in to live inside out and in your flow, as opposed to living outside in and letting the conditioning, the patterns from the world come into your, what we're going to be talking about today and going deep into. So I'm stoked to have him on. I'm going to invite him on right now. Hello, everybody that's joining. If you're joining, toss a little heart in the comments. There he is.
Let's flow, fam.
Let's flow, fam. There it is. It's funny, I just introduced you as Zulu Flow Lion. Isn't that hilarious? It's the lion
Zulu
from
flow.
Zion. There it is, baby. Synchronicity. Oh, dude.
There it is.
Here we are.
Hey, I love
again,
the color
brother.
scheme. I'm blending into your color scheme with your background.
I know, right? Isn't that great? Yeah, dude. Wow.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Hey, thanks for making this happen on such short notice. Really, this video and this interview are an example of the flow state, are they not?
Living life in the flow zone, bro. It's how we do. I know we've been trying to link up for a while, and when it happens just like that.
It does, like a lightning bolt. I was a little more grounded so I could conduct more electricity. So that's always good.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So anyway,
I just finished up a little 11-minute meditation. I was training this morning, and my heart rate was a bit high. I didn't want to get in here with like the beating heartbeat super fast, so I just tuned in and did exactly what you said. Just grounded in 11 minutes. Just nice little thing, nothing too crazy. But now I'm feeling a lot more conducive to the flow. So
conducive of that electrical energy we call the divine, or the non-duality of the flow state. So brother, it's so good to have you, Zulu. Like this is again long overdue. It's funny because you just released the podcast episode on your podcast where we riffed out about a lot of these same topics, and I thought we would, do a little bit of a Q&A at the end of this. So anyone watching, stay tuned in and ask us some questions. This guy's a legend in flow. I'm a humble student of flow, and so I want to see how we really link up here. But I wanted to return the favor and have you on my page so we could kind of pick up where we left off and talk about this epic state we call flow, and this being in the zone, being in the flow, blah, 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 all the words we have in society for it. But I thought we might start with a little bit of your background. Because last time I got to share about me, and I really want to hear a little bit about your journey, brother, and how you came to this point.
Yeah, man. More than happy to share. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody who's tuned in, and thanks for having me. It's crazy. Time is such a strange thing. It's 7 p.m. over yesterday in your time. It's the day of Independence Day. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like over here, we have a similar day, which is more akin to like Invasion Day, the day that the settlers came, essentially.
Right.
But it is July the 4th over here already, and so just a bit about me. If we go way back from the age of maybe two or 3 years old, I've always felt like this kind of specialness, or like I felt like superpowers, like this feeling that I had something, that I had something important to do here on the earth. And so things like astral traveling and things like telepathy and being able to read people's thoughts and see people's see inside their mind, essentially. I've had this from a super young age, but we never really talked about it. I never knew what they were until a lot later in life. And so in that, my life isn't as, how would you call, I don't know the way, like rosy or white picket fence, or like my whole life I've been moving. Like since before I was born, I was conceived in far north Queensland in Australia, then born in Jamaica. So I was flying before I was even born.
Wow.
Born in Jamaica, stayed there. Like my mom left when I was super duper young. left me with another family, and then I got bounced around. Before the age of 16, I would have lived in about 30 different places with a whole bunch of different people. Like it was just super transient, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And even since then, I've moved a lot. There's been this movement. Let's talk about movement, which is something that I really love. And in many ways, it was being like a struggle or a hardship, or like, going through kind of hardship, like abandonment stuff, and lack of love, lack of feeling of I am important, all of this kind of stuff. And when I
Sure.
look at it, it's like I look at it as such a blessing. It can be such a I could use that to be like, oh, my life's terrible. I'm the victim, and look who I can blame. Or I can just look at it as like, wow, if I've had this kind of challenging time, I've been through lots of tough kind of situation. Um, well, then I can bring this experience to to relate to a lot of people. I can relate to a lot of people who have had a difficult kind of upbringing, and
Right.
let them know that we can still make something of ourselves. We can still give our gifts to the world. We can still look at things. Like, I'm a big believer that life's challenges and the crises that we endure contain the biggest blessings and opportunities in life.
Yes.
So, rather than being the victim, as Dana Deer says, we can be the victor. So this is something that I believe in. I've had lots of loss in my life, like loss of like parents or grandparents and friends who have committed suicide. A lot of this, and it's been tough. Like my baby brother, my brother, who's not like my blood brother, but he's pretty much my brother, taking their own lives in different stages of my life, and I've used those opportunities to, those situations
Mm.
to look at how I can, how I can give my gifts to the world. Because I don't believe anything is created or destroyed. The energies that
It's
nothing can be
conserved.
created or destroyed. It's transformed, conserved into the whole that is.
Yeah.
And so when these important, special people in my life passed away from the physical plane, I felt that energy come and absorb into me, like that love and experience I had. I felt super powered and super charged by it. It wasn't always like this. It's tough. It's a struggle. Like the first time when Dan passed away, 2010, um, that was like, I just went downhill. I just went escapism. I just jumped right in. I went all in, all in on escapism,
Mm.
drugs, partying, alcohol, all this kind of stuff. And the next time it happened, which was 2014, almost exactly the same thing happened. Jumped in front of a train. Nobody would have expected it. Like, you look at them on the outside, they look like the happiest, most outgoing, fun people to be around. Um, but the second time it happened, I'd aligned myself with some particular technologies and some teachers and mentors and practices that allowed me to process the situation a lot more maturely, with a lot more consciousness and a lot more intention. So the next time it happened, I
Yeah.
turned that opportunity or that crisis. I looked at and found the blessings in it, and chose, instead of being anti-life, I chose pro-life, which was, and
Yes.
anti-life being the escapism and getting away from the pain, to actually embracing the pain, turning towards it, feeling it, and then making something productive and creative out of it, something useful out of it. So I made a song for my baby brother, put a whole video together. There's about 20 people involved who were affected by depression and mental illness, and who suicide had touched in their lives, who were involved as well. And we created a video, and that's touched many people already. We haven't released it officially because there's been some stuff with the family, but it's there, and a lot of people have watched it unofficially, and it's made quite an
Wow.
impact. So
Are you
that's
planning on
just some of
releasing that? Are you planning on releasing that
we are, we,
soon?
we are we've got go ahead from the family members in that I mentioned, that we're like a bit umming and ahhing about releasing it. So now we've got the go ahead from them, and we've changed what we needed to change in order to release it to the world. And I feel it's going to make a big impact. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully before the end of the year. So
Wow.
keep an eye out for that.
That's
If anyone
epic.
following me, I'll keep them up to date with that.
Everyone on
But
here
that's
should
just
be
that.
following you for sure.
Awesome. That's just some, like, just little pieces from here, there, and everywhere. It's not very chronological, but my flow. It's funnily enough, I'm wearing this shirt because this is Dragon Ball Super. If anyone recognizes any of the characters,
Yeah.
and and this is what got me. You say the Kamehameha, which is the King Kamehameha from Hawaii. Actually, is
Yeah, yeah.
one of the moves in Dragon Ball Z, which initially got me into Qigong, which I've been practicing for 17 years now. Or no, I keep saying 17 years. It's like 19 years now. Time
Wow.
flies, and and that is something I've been practicing for a long time. Vipassana meditation I got into 2008. And have sat 10 different Vipassana courses. Anyone who doesn't know what Vipassana, I think we talked about Vipassana on our call,
We
or
did,
definitely
yeah.
talked about it with Ryan, which is a 10-day silent meditation course.
I still
And
haven't been. I'm ready.
definitely it'll take you to that next level again. And so meditation, mindfulness, this is stuff that has really helped me to process, the difficulties, the life, all the fast pacedness of the life that we live in these days is, for me, it's quite crazy. It affects me a lot. I'm quite a sensitive person. People talk about being an empath, and I don't necessarily assign or buy into this kind of empath, the whole idea of being an empath, and I'm so
Sure.
affected by everyone else. I believe everyone has the ability to feel stuff, and we do. Some are more tuned into it than others, but I find that there's a pattern of, or I see a lot that people can use this empath idea to go into that victim or that blame kind of space and not take
Sure.
control, or not take responsibility for whatever they're creating within their own lives. Oh, I'm so empathic, so it's too much for me. I can't deal with it.
I
Well,
can't
yeah, sure,
process all this emotion. I'm gonna opt out, you know. Yeah, this goes around a lot in the New Age community. I love you bringing that up.
yeah, man. So for me, it's like, yeah, I'm empathic, but for me, it's like, do something about it rather than blame this thing that is outside of my control. Yeah, I acknowledge it and accept it and go, okay, now what do I want to do with it? So for me, it's like, well, I found things that work. So doing things that allow me to achieve a state of presence, doing things that allow me to, or realize what I'm grateful for, you know, having practices which put me in a state of, actually I can deal with this craziness or this hypersensitivity, So for me, that is meditation, mindfulness, filling my flow bank, which I call it. So I've created
Yeah,
systems where we fill up our flow bank. Anything that gives me energy, anything that when I do it or when I'm engaged in it, I leave it feeling more full, like my cup is full. That's my flow bank. That's a flow bank activity. So I've got a
yeah.
list of 50 of these things. I got my book here. I do have my book here.
Make some
As you
deposits
can,
at the flow bank. This is
so
key.
that's a whole list of all the
Wow.
different flow bank activities. So I got things on there: qigong, neigong, workout, self pleasure, self massage, sauna, writing, dancing, reading, sending messages of love to people, eating, making sales, smiling, practicing gratitude, freestyling, coaching,
Yes.
facilitating, deep breathing, walking. So I just choose out of my list, and I can fill up my flow bank anytime that I'm feeling like down or not feeling in my center. I can just fill my flow bank, and by the end of the day, I'm feeling more energized than when I started the
Totally.
day. So oftentimes I have to remind myself to go to sleep. I have to put myself to sleep because I'm so full. I'm like, all right,
Right.
I gotta set alarms and go. All right, I've got a curfew. Can't stay up past this time. So filling our flow bank is one way to I get lots of energy, and this is things that I've aligned with. And the middle name being Flow, it just and then rap. Me being a rapper for the past 20 years, that's something that I've always been doing, um, and I loved it. But when my life really started to change was when I really got aligned with my values, and realizing what is important to me, what is actually important to me. I found that rap, I was just doing rap and hip hop because I was good at it. Like it's something that I'd been done. It felt like a good idea, and I got good at it, so I started doing it. And then when I started interacting with people, they'd be like, "Hey, man, you got some new music coming out. When's your next show? You coming up this way to play any shows?" So I felt like I had to step into this idea that people saw me as this perception of other people that they
Right.
had. So it was like an injected value on me. And then I took some time. It was just after my brother passed away, actually. And I did a breakthrough experience with Dr. John Demartini, who's a guest I've had on my podcast as well. One of my dear, like, uh, he's like a mentor of mine, has been for many, many, many years, and like similar to Elliot for you,
Totally.
it's the same deal. And I did one of his courses, which is the breakthrough experience. And that's where you get really clear on what it is, what your values are, and also realize how to put things in your heart, and rather having uh, unequal or unbalanced perspectives of putting people on
Totally.
pedestals, or putting yourself in a pit, or putting yourself on a pedestal, and putting other people in a pit, to putting people in your heart. So you get really good at asking questions that allow you to balance everything out and realize the equilibrious nature of everything. Someone was
Mm,
asking me the other day, what if there was one thing that I'd like to get across in all my learnings of all the personal development, spiritual development that I've done, that I've been doing since many, many years ago, what would it be? And that idea of that there is no such thing as a one-sided anything would be the
totally.
would be the biggest piece for me. So there's no such thing as something that is either good or bad. Everything is both, and in
No
equal
white
degrees.
without black. It's absurd to think otherwise, at least on this plane of
Exactly.
existence. So,
Exactly. So for me, that was huge, and things started changing when I aligned my life with my highest values, and that meant when I looked at my life, it was like, what's important to me, what's showing up for me. Coaching was the number one thing that I love doing. I love sharing what I have, and I feel like it's my purpose in life to facilitate the realization of potential. And that
yes.
divine spark in people that you mentioned earlier, that potential is this divinity. It's this, you can't really touch it, but you can feel it and you can see it once it is actualized
Right.
in the world.
You gotta like coax it out sometimes and then like fan the flame
That coax
and get it to
that coaxing
open.
it out, exactly, that coaxing, that fanning is my magic, is my genius. That's what I chose to do before I came into this body. So it's like, if we can do this, and if I can do this, this is what's important to me. For other people, it might be looking after children. For other people, it might be running businesses. For other people, it might be looking after the earth. Whatever it is that's really important to you and that life is showing up for you, really align your life with that. And that's when my life started to change. So I realized that was my most important thing. That was my highest value. And then it was mindfulness, practice of mindfulness. And below that was movement, physical movement. And below that was socializing and connecting people. Really love connecting with people, building social circles. Below that was like sports and movement was one level, and there was music was like five or six. Like it was like
Wow.
it
But you
was like an
thought it was
effort to do
one
it.
at one point. You thought it was like one
Exactly.
because that was the feedback the outside world was giving you. Wow.
Exactly, and I'm the kind of person that I get really nerdy, and like I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna do music, I'm gonna get 10,000 hours done and get really good at it. And then when I got that done, I was like 20,000 hours if I want to be really good, you know. Just to shout out to Malcolm Gladwell's idea of 10,000 hours,
Right.
and being mastery. And then same with the qigong and the mindfulness, rather than going, I used to try to be like, I'm going to get 100 days, or I'm going to get 1,000 days in a row. And I tried that a few times. I got up to 200 days, 250 days in a row, and then I'd miss a day and have to start again, get up to 300
Man.
odd days and miss a day and start again. And then I set my sights higher. I said, all right, I'm going to do 1,000 days is discipline, 1,000 days in a row, 10,000 days in a row is mastery. So then I just set my sights higher. I'm like, all right, cool. If I aim for 20,000 days, then 10,000 days should be easy, and a thousand days is a walk in the park if my sights are that high.
Right.
And ever since I decided that, I've been practicing every single day without question. So for me, aligning my life with those highest values has been huge, and it's been a process, I guess, over the years of being really, what's the word I would say, like really honest with myself of
Sure.
what I'm capable of. And because I'm a big believer also that it's not, people talk about money being the root of all evil, and I don't believe that at all. It's just an energy, money, that's right. But I also believe that self-deceit is the root of all evil. So
Mm.
anywhere where we're deceiving ourselves and not being honest with ourselves, that then we start calling in, I guess we know that we're lying to ourselves on some level, so we start creating low self-esteem. We don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe that we can trust ourselves, and we lose trust in ourselves, which means we lose trust in others, and we lose trust in the universe, right? So,
Right.
you know, and it's been a process of just becoming more and more honest with myself, what I'm capable of, what I'm here for, what my intentions are, and the clearer I get with that, the more life flows.
Yes,
and all life
yes.
flows.
And that's it. That's the hook right there. It's like bringing us full circle here. And thank you for sharing that, man. Like that was very like insightful for me to hear that, you know, one thing that came up is like how life's flow, it's processed, this river, you can choose to step in and like paddle with it and really align with it and like move around the obstacles and maybe go over some rocks. And, you know, you mentioned that your interest in like training and like getting clear with yourself, getting clear on values, practices came from a lot of pain. Like the
Mm,
Kickstarter is often a loss, like that
mm,
deep sadness that, you know, everyone in their life has felt something, you know, and how you respond to that. And like for me, it's like the buzzword lately has been sovereignty, like stepping into sovereignty. Like how are you going to choose to train, create art from, and like you say, instead of turning away from it, embracing the pain in, like literally letting it, like fully accepting, embracing, and then transmutating that into something beautiful, something powerful. And I share the same passion you're mentioning of like coaching and like setting up a sacred mirror for someone so they can step into their highest power. And so like
mm.
I wonder in your journey, like do you remember like the first moment that you knew you like were gonna like go all in with flow, or like the first time you really felt the flow bank like getting like filled up and you're like, oh, and like boom, was it Qigong or what was it? Or maybe it was music.
Um, well, the thing is, I've always been coaching kind of thing. I guess I say always, but ever since the age of, there was a moment where I was attending a lot of kind of festivals, outdoor festivals, and I was going and just to escape, essentially going there just to deal with like unacknowledged pain, I guess, just to get away from this like sense of uneasiness that I felt, anxiety I felt, deeper level. I wasn't realizing it at the time, but this, on retrospect, this is what was happening. And then there came a point where I was like, actually, I'm not going to attend any of these events unless I'm giving. So I don't want to be
Mm,
taking and just going to this thing just to receive and to get things. And then there was a moment where I said, actually, hang on a sec. Look at all. I just looked around and was like, people set this space up, they build it, they organize it, they plan it, they program it, and then I was like, oh, I'm sick of just being a punter, and I want to be someone who creates the space and provides the space for people to have these transformational, these life affirming, these awakening kind of experiences where they can connect with themselves and others and this something bigger than themselves. So as soon as that moment came, it was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna not look at what I can get and receive, and look what I can give and provide. And that was a moment of kind of turning the tables. But even before then, it was like, even with music, it was like giving. I didn't realize that I was giving a service when I was playing music. I was just doing something I loved, right?
right, right.
But people would be happy with it, and I'm like, it's so normal for me to be able to flow and go off of the dome, and you know how it goes when we go. It's like the opposite of froze, not cold. It's hot off the
Oh,
top. You know how we drop. So that
oh.
for me, it's just so normal, right? And I didn't realize that people get inspired by that. Oh, I could never do that, and it's like, so realizing that I've got gifts to give, and then stepping up and just giving them, was very really helpful. And as I mentioned earlier, I've always been into creating social circles and creating family. I've had to create family wherever I go because I move a lot, and my friends are my family essentially. So in that, I was really into creating social circles, and I got into coaching as actually getting into the game and dating world and this kind of stuff
Right.
way back in 2006, I think it was. So that's what, 12 years ago now. And 12, 13. So that's when I started talking to lots of people in that world, and was helping them to get over the anxiety, or the social anxiety of interacting with the opposite sex, really. So whether it was men meeting women, or women trying to meet men, and just having this anxiety with leaving the house and talking to people in social situations. And my specialty was creating social circles. So that was really easy for
Right.
me to talk to a stranger. And I was also doing lots of sales work as well. So introducing myself to strangers was a skill that I developed a lot of. And also, like I said, wherever I go, I had to make friends. So this was my gift. And I would share a lot of that, and I would share it freely. And then people was people were starting to sort of listen to me, you know, online, talking to a lot of people about this stuff, and I'd already done a lot of the inner game work as well. So inner game being people would the whole I guess industry at that time was all about outer game and
Totally.
techniques
They hadn't got the
and all
clue
about what.
yet that it's like,
So, and I'd done a lot of the work, the inner work, the mindfulness stuff. I'd been introduced to Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins at a young age when I was about 16, around the same time that I got into Qigong as well. So I'd realized some of this stuff and like, actually, you know, all of the answers that I was giving people, that it wasn't what they want, like externally, hey, give me the line, give me the magic pill. I'm like, well, the magic pill is actually to just practice mindfulness and get to know yourself better. You know, the more you know yourself, you know, that is the
yes.
magic pill. If you want to, if you do 10 or 20 minutes of qigong every day, that's your magic pill. People are always asking magic pill. I'm like, trust me, there is a magic pill, but it takes work.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no such thing as
The
there's no magic
magic
line.
pill is self-knowledge. You heard it
Self
here.
knowledge,
Like
exactly.
there's no like outer game, adjustment that will be powerful enough as your own like inner being changing, or at least coming to the forefront. Maybe not even changing it, maybe just chipping away the layers of
Acknowledging it.
illusion and acknowledging. Yes. Wow. So that's
100%.
that's crazy. So you found yourself in
I
the
started,
early pickup world, doing the,
yeah,
the development on yourself. Like what
yeah.
was like that this is fascinating. So this is like tell me your concept of flow. Like that's something we should define because I think,
Mm.
like there's so many layers of flow we're talking about right now, but like maybe linking back to these early realizations, like what is your like textbook magician definition here?
I'm gonna uh, consult.
Nice. Nice, nice.
Mihai Chicks at Mihai.
Yep.
If anyone doesn't know about this guy, definitely check him out.
Yeah, he's the one
He
that Kotler and Wheel wrote, Rise of Superman, based on his work, basically humans getting into flow states. And
exactly,
you
check
got
him
the
out.
book
This
right there.
Mihai Mihai is his name. You can see it there. I think is that forwards for you?
I think it's actually backwards, but
Okay.
we get the message.
Hey,
Well, we can post the
yeah,
book in the comments for people. This
yeah, we'll
guy's a
post it up for you.
legend.
So flow is an optimal state. So flow is when it's a state of no mind. I like to liken it to this state of WuWei or non-doing. And people think, oh, not doing, so I'm just get to sit there and do nothing. Kind of,
Hmm.
but it's more a state of presence where whatever there's no thoughts getting in the way of, oftentimes the mind can be noisy. It's like whenever you're doing something that where you're fully present with, and that is also a little bit outside the comfort zone. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's kind of something new. It's something that takes a lot of concentration. You have to have all of your faculties with you. So, like for instance, riding a wave is a good example of something, an activity that will put you in flow. Because like there's dire consequences. If you fall, you're gonna fall off. You're gonna possibly hurt yourself. Um, yeah, anything for me that is allows us to ride the line between tension and relaxation. So it's like
Yes.
if particular it's or how you could say relaxed tension. So
Right.
if we put it the other way, there's particular poses that you have in qigong that are like, all right, I can do this for 10 seconds, but you do it for 30 seconds, 60
Right.
seconds, it starts becoming quite difficult, you know,
Sure.
and
Relaxing
when we're
into
in
that,
them,
into
exactly.
the
So
difficulty.
so so put in another way, um, yes, the granddaddy of flow, Jada, the granddaddy of flow, Mihai. And he's taken Maslow's work to that next level. Uh, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs people might be
Right.
familiar with, but so for me, it's flow is like, and anything that puts you in that state of presence, of full presence, full concentration, and you don't really have time, I guess, to think too much about things because you're so fully present, you're so in the moment, and you can actually build these states up as well. So you can, like I said, if you've got the flow bank where you're filling your flow cup, your flow bank up with deposits, we can start cultivating more and more of this. So Yeah, I don't know if that defines it for you. It's just like
I
states
think
where
that's
we're
a,
fully present, fully relaxed, yet at the same time we got that presence as well. We got this. We got. It's like because this is one way actually because I often hear people saying, "Oh, I try to meditate, but I fall asleep." You know, "Oh, I always fall asleep when I meditate, or I can't meditate because my mind's too busy and I'm not doing the meditation." And one thing we practice with Qigong is this, what we're trying to cultivate is this idea of Ting, which is essentially it breaks down to listening or paying attention or being, being aware. It's listening. So we
right,
can't,
awareness.
if we engage visualization, then we start putting pictures in and it's not really, we're not paying attention necessarily. Whereas that's more visualization. We talk a lot about this in Vipassana. Don't visualize, but just be present to what is. So when we're in this state of, if I say to you, Kevin, if I say, hey, listen, immediately your ears turn on,
Perk up,
you know, you're,
change states of
yeah,
consciousness, right? Yeah.
is exactly. So when we're cultivating this idea of listening, so instead of trying to meditate, listen. And when we're in this state, this can this can induce a state of flow
Right.
because we're like, all right, cool. There's no mind, there's no thought. We're just here, boom, ready to
Perception,
go.
like the receptivity of like turning the senses on.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it can be as simple as that.
Wow. So anyone watching this, like there's some juicy bombs in here. We're gonna post this book, Dr. Chicumsehai. He's like a Hungarian psychologist studying flow states for anyone that's just tuning in, doesn't know what we're talking about. I titled the video like living from the flow state and like creating from it, which I think is like
Mm,
that ideal you were just referring to. The state of non-doing but attention. And
mm,
like, for me, the yin yang, the two like folding energies into each other, the line in between them is that state between relaxation and tension, or Jordan Peterson
well,
calls
this is
it chaos and order. Like it's like the line
mm,
of the mercurial like boundary zone. And so if you're fully in the flow state, you're like on that thing like a ninja, like a tightrope, because you have a foot in both worlds, and yet there's an ease. There's an ease, and this is in our common
effortless
language.
ease,
It's
effortless
effortless.
ease.
Exactly. And this is, I think this is so fascinating, and why I first got into your work. I was following you on Instagram like years ago, is because I was obsessed with flow states, and I was searching out
Mm,
everything and every brand and whatever, talking about them, because it clicked for me. Like so much of your story, I can resonate with, like growing up being very like sensitive and like picking up a lot from my environment. And it wasn't until like, kendo, fencing, I also studied Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga. These modalities, like they dropped me into something that I can only
mm,
describe as like what we've been talking about. And so for me, it transcended like, filling up your flow bank. Like for anyone watching this, like maybe a fun exercise is like put something in the comments that like fills your flow bank. Like how do you make flow
mm,
deposits? Is it some of the stuff you listed,
mm.
or is it different? And is flow state just something I can get into for certain activities, or can I literally live from it?
Mm,
Like my whole life is based around living in this state, the WuWei, the great way, like the Tao. It's like
mm.
we don't really have a concept for it in English, because like
Yeah.
effortlessness and like ease, people are like, oh, that's lazy, or like you're not doing anything. It's like, but that's it. Like you do nothing, and yet nothing is left undone, as Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching. Like it's literally a state of perfect relaxation, so you still have your awareness on, and yet there's tension because you're ready to act and strike, and like you're ready to be fully
and and you're
present.
and you're up, you're here, you're not slouching, you're not here relaxing, like falling asleep. It's just here, you're upright, you're here, you're
Mm,
present, yet at the same time you're not tense here, you're fully relaxing down and dropping into this state of unwinding. This is the concept of sung, which can be translated to relaxation or it can be translated to unwinding. And this is like the
mm.
sense of we can practice it here, which is something that I practice every day if we're practicing it regularly. So we can breathe in, and when we breathe in, we can imagine the body's a sponge. So we're absorbing. There's this absorbing kind of sensation. Imagine the body's a sponge, And we smile as we breathe in as well. Corners of the lips, corners of the eyes curl upwards. When we change our shape, we change our state. So it's very difficult to feel bad when we're smiling. And then when we exhale, we open up, expand, and unwind. So this constant concept of inhaling, we're filling up with
Mm.
life, filling up with chi, filling up with flow, and smiling. It's very difficult to feel any other way than good when we're smiling. And then when we exhale, that smile broadens, deepens, and we open up, we unwind, and we essentially die. We're inhalation, we're inspiration, and we're exhalation, expiration. So each breath we're inhaling, that's that one side of the yin, and then we got the exhale where we're dying, which is the
Right.
yin yang. So we're constantly flickering between both. So this is how we can practice. This is how we can bring these concepts. I'm big on bringing concepts that we can't really touch and bringing them into embodiment through the body into the world practice. This is
Totally.
Qigong, it's energy practice, energy discipline, so
Yes. This is huge. And like Qigong is so accessible. Like it's so very accessible. Like Qigong
anyone
just
with a
means
body
to
can do
work with energy.
it.
Yeah, and that's why I think in Asia they have such longevity and such a tradition. You see like more 90-year-olds living on the Japanese islands than most of the rest of the world. And it's like, why?
Mm,
Well, it's in China
mm.
too, you know, simply stopping, drawing awareness to physiology, changing your shape, breathing, like what we just did, like literally that like inhale, smile, exhale, smile, like that can pull you out of like a neurosis, a fixation, an anxiety during the day, because I think
Hmm.
here in the States, especially parts of California, although I'm in a pretty flow
The
collect,
West, the Western world is
it's
above 93.
we just
It's
carry it
93%.
all.
It's above 93%. How you call we call it sympathetic dominant. So it's
Right,
like this is the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight flight. This is like essentially running on overdrive, overload of adrenaline, cortisol, which are key components of flow, by the way. But we don't want to overload of them. We want a nice
right,
balance of them. So 7% and less. Some people say 97%, but I think 93 is a good low ball just to give
right,
some kind
right.
of hope. That is actually running on parasympathy, and often of those people that we talk to that are running with parasympathetic nervous system dominance is people who are doing what they love. This is the people who are practicing regular mindfulness, people who are engaging in, like, you'll have often people who are practicing like yoga and things. Oh, I do yoga 5 times a week or every day, but they only practice on the mat. They don't go out in life. They're the
Exactly.
most pent up, stressed out people. They short fuses because they're not practicing. They're not bringing that practice out into life. And I feel that's the most important thing whenever I'm in class and working with people or just whatever, with one-on-one coaching, group coaching, if I'm giving a talk, it's like, it's important to bring what we're doing in our practice out into life so that life becomes the
Yes.
meditation.
Yes. Do you know if those stats are the same for Australia? Like, is it a similar
Well, that's
sympathetic
the
paras?
Western world.
That's the whole
That's the
West. Oh,
West
wow.
Western world.
That
It's
makes so
crazy.
much sense. It makes so much sense. Yeah. For anyone watching who doesn't know, sympathetic, like you said, is the fight or flight, very like on alert, beta brain waves, very like ready to do, but also holding a lot of body tension, which chronically is going to cause dis-ease because you're out of ease.
Mm.
And then the parasympathetic response is rest and digest. It's more of that staying in equilibrium actually, because you don't want to stay there too long either. And yet we could use a lot more of that because we're so far on the other side. And so I think that's
100%.
fascinating. Um, yeah, so anyone who has any questions, anything burning about flow, now's your time. Put it in the comments and we'll get into the
And
most
if
interesting one I can find.
if any of this is useful for you guys as well, just give us some thumbs up, some hearts, so we can know that
Yeah,
we're actually bringing some value across for you guys.
totally. So
But
someone brought up improv, which is one I thought was worth mentioning. Because improv is that state where you stop, being self-conscious and just
mm,
engage with the world in a mode of play. I think play is a key aspect for me of flow. And I know Jiro, a boy Jiro Taylor, um,
shout outs to Jiro.
shout out to Jiro. I love interviewing him and asking him about flow. And he brought in the kind of playfulness component. Like there's a big
Mm,
part of play that's in flow, which is fascinating. Yeah, I love the father of flow. Jovel says the higher third eye point in your vision activates the medulla, pineal gland, and transmits to other brains. I think you or she was referring to you talking about having like these superpowers as a kid and like hearing and maybe feeling people's thoughts and things. And that brings up an interesting point. You know, is that more possible in a flow state? Is when you're in the flow and fully tapped in and attuned and on the line in between sympathetic, parasympathetic, is this when our superpowers activate and we can really communicate, integrate, and, you know, maybe telekinetically integrate on a much higher level? Like, I think the obvious answer is yes. But I'm curious
Simple and plain.
how much like people are talking about this. Like, are we worried about, I know in my life lately, I've been doing inventory and realizing like too much focus on results instead of the
Mm,
process. And the process is flow, which
mm,
is why I want to live from it.
mm. Yeah, well, if you look at the physiological nature of what we're just doing there, so I can't highlight and reiterate enough the the process like you just mentioned. So, which is taking time to actually take a breath, to smile, to just enjoy the space where consciousness is happening, the awareness is
Mm,
happening, the observation, observe the observer and feel the space that we're in, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, the now. Taking the time to experience this and practice it, live it, like you said, is the important piece. You know, that is the important piece for living this stuff. It's like we talk about being the change we wish to see in the world, and Lisa just as a mention here, she addressed you with it, but I'll touch on that now because it's applicable and it's relevant. So she asked, how do you stay in the flow with all the political negativity? You know, so for
good
me,
question.
you know, it's a great question as well. There's a lot going on around. So how I personally do that, I don't scroll. I have rules around particular things. I don't scroll on things. I don't. I particularly, you know, there's no. Some people have like newsfeed blockers. I'm like, I don't do that. I just don't scroll. I specifically and consciously choose where I'm directing my
Right.
attention. So there's not. I'm not reading newspapers. I'm not, you know, just going and reading the news, watching the news, listening. You know, if I have news, it's people have talked to me that I'm engaging with, and they're telling me. Like my podcast is my probably biggest source of news. People tell me about
Right.
stuff that's happening in the world. You know, so but in that, it's I realize that practicing, you know, that for instance, the inhale, breathing, and you're exhaling. So I'm practicing walking that line of that yin yang, or that point of that 0 point that is, you know, that's symbol in Tao. It's got the break in the middle, the point of pure potentiality. That point there is cultivating living from that space. And when we live from that space, we realize that everything in the world is both sided. So when there's a political negativity, so-called negativity, I realize that is creating, like, for instance, I talk to a lot of my friends who are based in North America or in the USA in particular, and they say that this kind of Trump whole administration that is
Oh
happening right
yeah.
now is like people are so anti and against, and then there's this pro, like this back and forth. So for me, it's realizing that, you know, there is this kind of negative side of everything, but also look at all the grassroots action. People are getting up and starting to vote who never voted before, starting to take the power into their own hands. So it's everything is equal and opposite in its effect, in the cause and effect. You know,
Right.
so when people start saying, how do you keep your center or keep the flow, I just I just realize that nothing is. I can't put them on a pedestal or put them in a pit because they're bad and they're shit house and they're doing bad things to the world. I realize, you know, I'm like, well, actually, I look at the other side. So I look at what is the good coming from this so-called negativity, and that allows me to balance my perspective and put it in my heart. And when I'm living from the heart, we're living from the flow. We're living in a balanced state.
Right. Right. I think I totally agree. I mean, there was a time in my life where reading a headline or politics or news could pull me out of flow. But like you say, now
Mm,
I get my news from conversations with clients, friends, and allies, and I'm like, oh shit, really?
mm,
And then once in a while, you know, the only news I check maybe is cryptocurrency because I have, you know, vested interest there. But this is funny, man, because the uh, the flow state is a heart state, like you said. Like that's why when you do what you love, you're going to enter into a flow state and live in that flow. And by, you know, extrapolation, if you love your life and the people in it, then ideally you're going to create from that flow and that place of heart connection. So if you really love your country and you're passionate about politics, you're probably not reading a lot of politics and complaining about them. Like you're saying, it's like it's going to be that grassroots movement where you go out and do something about it and share with your friends, create a social circle, something like this. And I think to bring this in a full circle right now, like, you know, maybe just give us your top 3 technologies for embedding flow more in our life. So anyone watching this that wants to, like, you know, maybe make their list, or like how you prioritized it, so we really can live and create from flow, and like these tools can be taken away.
So there's so many, but for me personally, like I'm going to struggle to bring it to 3. um, but I'll give it a go. For me personally, it is, and it will change for everyone. So what is for me isn't going to be for everyone else. You know, these are my highest values. So probably the number one thing is to get clear on what's important to you. That's the, you know, that self-knowledge. Know thyself, love thyself, be thyself. That concept. Actually go and research what that means and actually see how you can apply know thyself, love thyself, be thyself. Because that is the core of everything. Without that, then we're just living injected values. Anyone listening to me is going to grab my idea and go, oh, that's important.
Right.
No, grab your own idea. Just do your own, whatever it's going to take to allow you to know yourself better and deeper. That would be number one. So self-awareness, I guess, or self-knowing, self-knowledge. And what's coming through for me? I've got all these. It's like this. This
is that distillation into something new.
What is coming through? The big one that's jumping out at me is find gratitude. You know, find a way to appreciate all the things, the good, the bad, the ugly, the light, the dark, everything. Find a way to practice gratitude and focus on the things that you're grateful for, the things that you want more of in life. Be grateful for them. If you want to experience something, give it to someone else. You know, so this is the practice of appreciating what we have. When we have appreciation, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you give me a gift and I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever, and you give me another gift, oh, whatever, I don't really acknowledge you. Soon you're going to get sick and tired of giving me gifts, right? I'm going to give someone who actually appreciates it,
right.
And you'll go and take your energy there. And I'm, you know, using you as the personification of life or the universe here,
right?
You know, so when we appreciate and we give gratitude and we feel it and we're like so grateful for the things we receive in life. So basic things. Every morning I wake up, I'm like thankful for the fact that I'm alive. I'm waking up. I can breathe. I can see. I can hear. I got a roof over my head. I got clothes. I got warmth. You know, these are basic things. I got food. But then we can take it further in the opportunity that we have to do the things we love, to give value in the world, to work with people. You know, we can take it further in the things we want to see more of in life. You know, find a way to be grateful for what we have, because there's enough complaining going on in the world, right?
Sure.
we don't
have
need
plenty.
More of that.
Yeah. We need to reorient there.
So actually practicing gratitude, and this one, obviously I'm biased, but find a practice that allows you to be present in the moment. So mindfulness, meditation, Qigong, yoga, all of these things. But the most important part of these things is to not just do them on the mat, not just do them when you're doing them, actually use them to cultivate this idea of presence, of mindfulness, of just being, and less doing, and, you know, less kind of noisy stuff, and just find a way to drop deep into those alpha states, into that that moment
when you arrive
into your center. Exactly. And so look at what you can do to bring about more states of this parasympathy. You know, anything that's putting us into parasympathy, which is the flow bank activities. So write a list of your flow bank activities and do more of those. Essentially what you said earlier, do what you love. You know, if you're talking about a doing, So those are the top three that I've got. I've got tons more if anyone
Right,
is,
but
is
I
interested
like how you
is
distilled
interested.
them though, because we've got,
Mm,
you know, clear, getting clear. So like got to be radically honest with yourself. Got to get clear on your
mm,
values and goals. Gratitude, the master emotion. It's the master key that unlocks the emotional guidance system.
mm.
And like, wow, grateful to be on this video with you, brother, right now. And then presence, getting present and finding and cultivating that thing that opens you into receiving the flow and then living from that space.
Mm.
Wow. I'm gonna bow to that,
And
brother. I feel complete. I feel like there was a lot of power here, a lot of beauty. Anyone watching this video, please like, share, comment with what you think about this conversation, about flow. And if you want to check out Zulu, he's linked here. Go check out his work. He's got an epic podcast and they have a Facebook group as well. Is there anything else you're launching that you want to tell the people about?
well, I'll be in the States shortly, very shortly. In about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be over there. So that's something that I'll love to connect with anyone over your side of the world.
Yeah.
Let us know where you're at. I'll be on the East Coast for mostly, but if I get an invitation out west, I might have to come and visit you. I do run a 7 day challenge as well, which is a 7 day Qigong challenge, and I'll pop a link up for you on your page if you want to share it over there as well.
Cool. If you want to put it in the comments here so people can get involved, that'd be epic, man. I love how your dedication to Qigong is making me want to practice more than my little warm-ups. But yeah, Flow fam, it's been real. Thank you guys so much. Have a beautiful day tomorrow in Australia, and we'll have a beautiful pre-Independence Day night here in San Diego. But
Blessings. Thanks for having me. Thanks
bless
so much for
Zulu.
having me. I appreciate you, brother, and look forward to more of it.
Yeah, more and more. Let's live from it. See you, brother.
Bless up.